All right. So today's gonna be a big day. I'm starting to think. I've started thinking through a little bit about how to do automations, how I want that to be set up, um, and now I'm going to talk through the different ways that this can be structured and kind of thinking through and kind of building out that model. So this is not going to be very much code today. So if you're here for the coding, sorry, but you're going to hear more so of the thought process behind stuff. All right. Let me throw up the wrong screen. This one. There we go. Okay. So this is automations. So before I think about kind of the data, let's build out a hypothetical automation I might want. So let's say we have a deal, which is not something that's in our system right now, but let's pretend. And let's say it was switched to 1, so it was updated to closed or 1 or something. So when that happens, I might want to do some branching on this. So I might go if, and with this we'll do something like, so we'll say something like if type equals I don't know, sale, I don't know, something. So if it's no, we're just going to end. If it's yes, then we want to, I don't know, maybe we'll say, so this deal could be associated with a bunch of people or a bunch of companies. So we'll say maybe for each person, we want to send welcome if I can write, maybe delay 1 day, and then maybe we introduce them to the customer support rep, and that's it. But then maybe for each company, we want to, I don't know, update lifetime value. So really this yes, so what's interesting about this is maybe if this is more complicated over here under the company, maybe we said update lifetime value, and then maybe in here we'd say if it's over a certain value, send a you're our best customer email or something. But I could say maybe send over some template. And then end. And maybe these are joined together or something. I don't know. But what's interesting is that if we have this structure, then this branch and this branch can have separate timelines. Yeah, that's interesting. So so that would be interesting if if they merge back together for some reason. Um, I have to think about that, because if you have something where like branch A takes a week, branch B takes 2 weeks, they merge back together, and then other stuff happens. Yeah, I guess like when you merge it, do you have to put in like some type of a weight, or would it just continue? Yeah, probably what I'd say is there should be like a weight concept. So if branch A comes in and it's 1 week, branch B comes in and it's 2 weeks, then you had some other stuff following that. Well, let me draw this. So you have so if you have A and B, and stuff happens that these are happening concurrently. And then here you have 1 week. Over here you have 2 weeks. And they come back together. And then stuff. So actually making this maybe a little more explicit. They come back together. There's stuff. And then another 1 week. And then stuff. So the question is, looking at time. Up here you are at 0. And then over here it's been 1 week. Over here it's been 2 weeks. So if you trigger this immediately, then stuff is going to happen at 1 week. You're going to wait another week, and then 2 is going to happen. I'm assuming that when you have this join, that you won't process twice. So really each branch needs to know, has it been run? So if you had this structure, that's kind of what you'd be looking at doing. So doing that again, if we put in a block here, that was a wait, and then stuff, 1 week, stuff. If we did this, we'd have up here 0, 1, 2. The wait would array around for the 2. So the wait would wait for all branches to complete. So this would be at 2. Stuff would be at 2. Then this would be at 3. Okay, well that's interesting to think about. So yeah, we have to think about how do we handle separate branch execution. Okay. Now where I first expect to do this is kind of like in an email sequence. So for that, you're going to have manually triggered something. So yeah, looking at these, this here is your trigger. Every single thing in here would be a node, and then you have some here that are like conditions. These here would be actions, an ending, or a delay. We're actually going to have to basically, for this to work, we're actually going to basically build a little microcomputer, I think. That's going to kind of run through the whole process. And actually, even like for these things, that's going to have to be a loop. Yeah. So let's look at what a sequence would look like. We have manual enrollment, for example, and you might then do an email, 2 days, maybe email template, maybe wait 12 hours, add a task, and one day I then enroll in something else. This would be kind of, but to me, like, this is just, if we build a system that can do automations, we can take care of sequences and automations kind of with the whole same system. Okay, so that's kind of the type of stuff that we're going to want to build out. So what are some of the things that are in this? So we're going to have whatever the automation is itself. And with that, you're going to probably have something like the name, archived, name, archived, I don't know, maybe enabled. Okay, so you're going to have your automation. An automation is made up of a whole bunch of nodes, which, and this is where you're going to have your trigger, action, delay. I don't know, is it delay and that kind of stuff just another action type of action? I don't know. A condition, loop, and so those to me are just kind of all specializations of what a node is. So a node can have parent and children. We're gonna have to have a model to connect them together because it's gonna be many on self. So the connections between nodes to self, those could be like a branch. So branches, which is going to have parent-child. Okay. So what I'm picturing is probably, it's likely that we're going to use something like the delegated types for all the node types here that are just single table inheritance. I'm trying to think if we need to use the delegated types. See, I think that the node's going to be pretty consistent in what its data structure is, but it's going to have, depending on the type of node, it's going to have a whole bunch of different related things. So the trigger is going to have the related entity type that it's going to be triggered off of. So yeah, that might just be like a settings. Are they going to have a bunch of different information each? Like some of them are going to be dead simple, like end. I don't see that having. So it almost needs to be like an optional designated type. I wonder if you can do that. So the designated type is So you have a base table, so like this case it would be node. And really it's just a specialization of a polymorphic relationship. So loop is going to have more information to say what type of loop it is. Conditions is definitely going to have more things. Delay is going to have more settings for it. An action and a trigger is going to, the only one that's really kind of special is that end, which doesn't really have any other data with it. Yeah, it just kills the whole process. So I guess designated types probably make sense. Okay. So this is kind of what our basic structure is going to look like. You're going to have automation. You'll say give a name, archive, enabled, whatever. You're going to have nodes. They wire up. And so some of the questions I would have is, can you have multiple triggers? I suppose you could. A system triggered by a bunch of different things. I don't see that be a problem. Or some say that's something that we shouldn't support. It's going to make things more complicated, of course, but that's that's my problem. Well, I don't think we're going to derive this from the. I don't think we're going to be able to drive this from the UI to start with. Let's have this just entirely built in code. So maybe what I'd want to do is build out the test of an automation. So what is the full automation I want to make? I guess is where I'd start. So do I okay, so I could do an email sequence as an automation. That would probably be one that's pretty straightforward. So with that, so for a email sequence, you're going to have a manual trigger. Now, so this is going to have to, each of these is going to have to be, okay, as a complete separate aside. I do have thoughts around kind of converging the whole system into kind of a more consistent back. So right now we have people, companies, projects, etc. I think it'd be interesting to have just one thing, which is called an entity, for example. And that entity is going to have no specialization on it. So that could be a company or contact, whatever. We already have the custom fields, so we can do that. And then now, because we do want to have some specialization, you can just say whatever that entity supports. So for example, adding email addresses, that would be, so if we made a contact entity, then we could add email address support to it, and that would make it into a contactable entity type. And that lets us do quite a lot of interesting meta programming. But what I think we'll say is for manual trigger for right now, this is going to say, supported types or something. And we're going to say a person in this case. So this is going to be a really supported type. This should not be a person. This should be a contactable. And when you do a contactable, the actual enrollment, so there's something that's something actually we need to think about for the data model is the enrolled object. So we're going to have an enrollment, and that's going to be connecting the automation and a target. Okay. So we're going to have a contactable trigger. That's going to go into a email. Then a 1 day delay. Let's do 1 business day. And then another email template. And and then we'll create a task. And so that's our kind of our sequence automation. I think that's probably a good thing to start as our first test of building out something. So if we can build this out and that works, then kind of the next thing would be that so let's do maybe a company automation. So I'm just trying to think of a good example, one that we could run through, that we can imagine. So so for a project, when it is updated as our trigger, if the task count is 0, if the task count is greater than, so if the task count, let's do this. If the task count is 0 and status is open or something like that, add task, I don't know, this would be something like add next step. And now I'm thinking of this, rerunnable. So if you have a sequence or something that you only want to be able to run once, having that set to false means that it can't happen. So this one here, for example, we don't want to be able to trigger it again, again, and again. Okay. So this task count thing doesn't exist. So that even actually becomes another automation. So that even, here's where we're going to have system automations. Okay, so for that's interesting. So this would have to be whenever a task is changed, we'd have to look at all the associated records. And then if any of them is a project, then So when we think about this generically, it can get difficult because we have to think about how we could build this with what we just have proposed in the structure. And that's where this gets complicated versus just hard coding it in. So if we could do something like when a task is updated, if status is not equal to old status, actually, status was changed. If I can write, then what do we want to do? For each associated record, if it's a project, if status is done, project dot task count -1, else +1. So this project task would have to be a custom field. I can see race conditions being a problem here. Whereas the, yeah, I'll have to think about that a little bit. But I think this gives us a starting plan. So if I can build out the code for this, that's really what I'm looking to do. Whoop. So maybe taking kind of the first micro step at this. Wasn't really planning on doing that right now, but why not? Okay, so there's gonna be no UI stuff for this at all right now. So here we want to kind of start speccing this out. So our spec Rails G our spec model automation. That's a module, not a model. Mod. All right. All right, let's just describe. Simple sequence. So this is kind of a big fat inside out approach. It's almost like an integration test. So here I'm going to do automation equals automation dot new Then we're going to give this a name of my sequence. And archived is false, and enabled is true, and rerunnable is true, and system is false. So I can make that automation. And for that automation, we're going to have nodes. And I'm going to make a new automations trigger. And for this, I'm going to probably use single table inheritance. So its type is going to be a manual trigger. Automations, manual. Let's do the triggers. Manual. Okay. And so we're at 31 minutes in. So we're going to say, actually, I'm going to say the trigger is that. And I was looking at the iPad still. So we're going to make an email one. So this will be the, email one is going to be automations. Actions, email.new, and I'm going to give this, so each one of the nodes I think should be able to have a title, and that will pass through maybe welcome email. This is a manually created email, so we'll just give it a subject of my subject and a body of my body. Then we say we're going to send the email template. That's going to be automations, actions, email template. Title. So this is the actually, maybe we should call this a description. We'll give it a title. The title is going to be follow-up, and this is going to, so when I do sequences, I do want to give the option to, well, I'm not going to worry about that for right now. I'm just thinking I do want to give the option for you to do customizations on it. So if you're just sending out the automation automatically, you won't be able to. So it's just going to use the template, but maybe you could tweak the template before sending it. Anyways, so we'll create that email template. Anyway, actions, and this will be a task. That's fine. Do stuff and the what do I actually call the body? I don't know. I'm not gonna be happy with this, but that's fine. Okay, and I'm going to change this to is exit a thing? Yeah, it is. Exit, that's going to be annoying. I got to think about the name of this, but exit node equals automations exit node dot new. Okay, those are all the things that we're going to want to build. And we're just going to we're going to build the first thing, then kind of wire things up and whatnot iteratively. But in here, we want to make a branch. Okay, so we're going to do a automations branch dot new. Actually, these are going to be create. All right, so when we create that branch, its parent is going to be trigger, and its child is going to be email. And then we're going to go from email to delay. I don't know how we want to specify this right now. Let's say it's specified hours delay. That's a bad idea for a bunch of timekeeping reasons. So let's actually say days is 2. 2 days, and hours is 6. That's how we'll do it. Okay. So trigger, we're going to immediately send the email. We're going to then have delay 1. Delay 1 is going to follow up with email template. Email template is going to follow up with task. Task is going to have end. And I don't want to actually just do the mass setup. Okay. I'm just thinking how I want to do this assignment, how to build this out. Well, so this is kind of building out in code what we want to be able to build in the application. My question I'm kind of thinking through right now is how to structure this to work. So each of these automation.trigger, So automation dot nodes would give us trigger dot node to add that in, and then our email dot node. I don't know if this is not going to be the way it's going to be set up, I assume, but okay. So if we add all those nodes, okay, I think that works. So let's actually, so we actually don't need to have all those branches. Trigger email. So that's where we can then wire them together. So build the trigger and add that node. We build the node and add the so this is actually what we want to be doing. So this would be a email sequence built out. And this is all going to blow up on me. But that's kind of the gist of what we want to do if we didn't want to build in the user interface. And this would give us our system. At that point, we can do some type of like a run. And here we're going to have run. So, yeah, we're going to have, yeah, so triggers are going to be special. So what we're going to have to do is somewhere we're going to have some like, somewhere we're going to have something like automations dot run. And there'll be like some type of an event. The event is going to have the object and the action that happened, and so this would be something like the person update, and what this event run is going to do is it's going to have to grab all the triggers in the system, see which ones could be triggered by this, and go from there. We also are going to be able to do so for something that's like a manually triggered one, we're going to run that with an event. Same idea. This is how you trigger any ones that are manual triggers. They'd have to be targeted from that one specifically, since it is a manual thing. So that's kind of where we're going to head. So, so these are going to be moved up to the auto. So yeah, we'll have that kind of set up. So that's where we're going. But I think we're going to stop that for now. And yeah, I will check you out next.